everyone. It is a great pleasure to be here in this unusual time in order to discuss how the technology and innovations during the pandemic are helping people and also businesses to adapt and to survive sometime. My name is Vanja Manova, and I'm country manager of MasterCard for Bulgaria, North Macedonia, Albania, and Kosovo. And I'm here with Armen Matevosyan, who is Chief Commercial Officer of TBI Bank, with Eva Vucheva, who is founder of one very interesting fintech company, maybe more tech than tech. Fashion tech, okay, named Impact ID, and Evgeny Yurdanov, who is Chief Digital Officer in CloudCard, one of the biggest e-com platform in Bulgaria. If not the biggest one, he will correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, not a problem.
Okay, so it's not a secret to anyone that we live in a very challenging times, and many people and businesses actually had been challenging to change their life, the way they work, the way they interact, etc. And here we see how the technology and innovation can help them in this process. Many businesses actually had to react immediately and to go digital even overnight in order to be able to keep working and serving and keeping the relationship with their customers. We see the exponential growth of e-commerce, of digital services, and fortunately, we as a company, MasterCard, were very well prepared about this because we had all the technologies, all the solutions in place. And I believe that all of you would agree that after many years, contactless payments and even mobile payments are becoming the new and normal way to pay. But today we will be talking about another channel, digital channel, which is e-commerce, how the trends are changing, how actually the businesses are reacting, and how the customer behavior is changing, and how actually technologies are helping this customer behavior to be well met by all businesses. I'm going to share only one number, and then I'll leave the floor to our panelists to share their experience and their opinion. But during the pandemic, 17% of Bulgarians have purchased online for the very first time. 40% of Bulgarians have purchased online things for the first time. I mean, different things than usual before. And here, I will leave the floor to Evgeny to share more data about this, and to share not only data, but some particular cases which will prove how the technology is helping the businesses and the people.
Yes. Thank you, Vanya. Thank you, everybody, for participating in this event, of course, and to all our viewers for I know, keeping tabs on everything that's coming up and working in the e-commerce field. And for instance, I would like to speak really briefly about the changes that happened this year as opposed to the previous years that were back in the 2010s that we've experienced thus far. But what I have in mind right now is to share that a lot of businesses are digitizing their whole operations and moving towards an online experience rather than what they had thus far, which was more of an offline experience if you think about it. For instance, one of the biggest customers that came into CloudCard during the pandemic was T-Market. This is one of the biggest grocery stores in Bulgaria if you think about it. It's a whole chain of stores that just digitized their business and started selling online for the first time ever. And they did that based on the CloudCard platform, because we are enabling businesses to digitize themselves pretty easily for the most part. And even enterprise level customers such as T-Market are using our platforms just as good. But in terms of the numbers, and not talking just about customers and all that, but talking about the actual numbers that you said yourself in terms of statistics, what we've seen thus far, it's a pretty drastic shift in the usage of e-commerce and how people are used to do that in Bulgaria, for instance. I believe that everybody knows who's already watching this stream that Bulgarians tend to use a payment method called cash on delivery, which is pretty predominant here on this market, on the Bulgarian market, for instance. But the problem with cash on delivery is you have a cash exchange. You know, you're touching people for the same reason. You know, people have gotten used to do that in previous years, but this year during the COVID start in March and April, for instance, people have drastically changed their behavior, and this behavior really. We really find it mind-boggling because up until 2019, cash on delivery was accounting for up to 85% of everything being purchased online was cash on delivery. And the other payment methods such as, you know, leasing by TBI and other players on the market, and cash or credit card payments or card payments such as MasterCard and etc. were really a smaller percentage rather than these staggering 85% if you think about it. And the change and the shift there was we were trying to change this behavior for Bulgarians for quite a while now, for the past few years or so. But what changed was COVID really drastically shifted this. And for the most part, cash on delivery has lowered quite substantially, even in some cases and places for under the psychological threshold of 50%, which means that that's a huge shift. We weren't able to even move it even a few percent for a past 5 years or so, but now it's down 30 to 35 to even more than 35%. And the major winners in terms of the payment systems are, again, for the most part, card payments, as well as leasing platforms such as TBI and the other players which are on the market in terms of these types of statistics. In terms of the statistics that I'm sharing, I just want to share with you that currently CloudCard has more than 8,000 active stores currently running the CloudCard platform here in Bulgaria. And all of these stores, we are accumulating all this data, and that's why we're able to share this data with everybody.
Can I ask you something?
Of course.
How many of these stores have been built during the pandemic or as a result of the pandemic?
Yeah, more than 3,000.
And how quickly you are able to set up a store from scratch?
Well, it really depends on who is actually doing the building. I mean that, for instance, after this panel, there's other colleagues of ours named Stanik who are doing the agency sort of approach to these types of things. So their timeline differs than ours, but our platform, which is a software as a service platform, it's more or less do-it-yourself platform. You can do it yourself, or you can do it with the help of our team. It can happen in a couple of days or a few days' time. You can get your store up and running, which is pretty unheard of in the web development industry, if you think about it. Yeah.
By the way, yes, this is great actually, and I would like to share what we did here in Bulgaria in partnership with Viber and one fintech company. We created a Viber society where even the smallest, the micro businesses can have their own communication channel and even to initiate electronic payments in order to sell their goods and services. And here, because so far we have been talking about the inclusion of small and medium enterprises into digital world, but it is very important that the technology is a tool for financial inclusion of people, and here we are talking even for people who are not so technical savvy, and I know that TBI actually have a great example of such an inclusion. Armen, would you please share your experience?
Thank you. Good morning. Or good afternoon.
Good afternoon, actually.
Yeah, so we as TBA, we have been, our motto is that, used to be and is that we are next generation digital lender. Before COVID, it was, of course, a vision of the not so close future, distant future, whereby the habits of the customers would change, and we wanted to be ready for this transformation. But what the banks face during the pandemic, this is this phenomenon of positive discontinuity, when things accelerate and when conventional ways of making business are virtually disappearing on our eyes. Of course, some part of it will come back after the COVID is challenged, but we know that good habits, they stay for long. Accordingly, those habits that our colleague from CloudCard was speaking about, once people have used it because of the necessity,
Exactly.
if that is built properly, if it is convenient, if the logistics is built properly and people do not have to pass through some hassle process in order to purchase something, that will stay forever. Of course, not with everybody, but with 85–90% of the people, users, it will stay forever. Accordingly, here we see our role as an inclusion not only of the customer, but also of our partner merchants, because we are, our business is built around, we call it merchant solutions business, whereby we have more than 4,000 traditional, mostly, merchants all around Bulgaria. And the thing is that we have to match the speed with which they are transforming with the way, with the speed with which the customers are transforming, because many of our businesses still, our partner businesses, partnerships, they don't have this opportunity to be joining this. They don't maybe even know about the existence of companies like yours. Accordingly, I see that it is very important for us, and we are already taking the first steps on it, to make them meet each other, because this is not only about the ambition to change the world, but of course, and we don't have such ambition, it is just a rational willingness to stay profitable. Because we see that if before, I mean in stock markets, and we saw the valuations of the banks where it was really difficult to connect them to the real business that they are doing today, it's very much profitability driven. And it is a challenge to stay profitable. And the traditional habits are changing. People are driving, I think this end of cash era, which will happen one day, it is just accelerating. And people prefer, I was reading some statistics by Ernst & Young Future Consumer Index, that according to the recent measurements, of course it is in the United States, but we can extrapolate pretty much. I mean, there is a 7% growth in credit card utilization rate, 10% growth in debit cards. I mean, 35% growth, and it is pretty traditional market in general, in contactless payments rates. I mean, people get concerned over their health. They know that the cash can potentially become a transmitter of the disease. And on the other hand, they were forced during the lockdown periods to find ways to shop for their necessities, or not only the necessities, in a condition where they couldn't visit a shop. Accordingly, this is important, and this is where we were already. We have extensive platforms for leasing over, as we call it purchase finance through the websites, cash online. But what we did for customers, on the other hand, is that because not all customers are sufficiently technologically savvy, we have created assisted processes where the customer, which is unable, for instance, due to age or maybe due to some technological restriction, to finish the online application independently, we have set up a special team in call center, which is we are asking customer just to start, and then we call to finish together with him.
Awesome.
And
awesome.
You do it once, you do it twice, and out of 10 customers, 5 start using it later independently. And this is what I call it a phygital experience, you know, physical with digital together. It will be something in the middle, and then it will transform, of course, to digital, but there are a lot of driving factors there. But I mean, we look very hopeful. And in general, we see that approximately, we saw that if the share of online business in our business in Bulgaria, which is a very archaic market, as you have correctly mentioned, if it was on the level of 10% of the total turnover and pretty stagnating, right in April this year. It has grown to 20%. Then after the lockdowns got eased, it went down, but not less than 18%, and now it is growing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for this, and I would confirm that actually this unusual way of spending and changing the habits are something which is becoming a trend, and we expect that it will be kept for the future. And thank you very much for the great example how customer care is the focus of all the businesses, and that we live in customer-centric world. And as I mentioned in the beginning, we are observing how customer behavior and how customer values are changing. People are not buying just to buy, they buy because of something. And I believe that Eva will share with us what have inspired her to establish this company, which actually serves this.
Yeah, I need to take a step back here in just linking to the change in habits, because e-commerce has been blooming since the pandemic, obviously, but one sector of it has not, and that's fashion, right? Because it's not a necessity and people don't go out, so whenever there is lockdown, what sells is jumpers and t-shirts and, you know, joggers. People are not buying really high fashion or any fashion for that matter. And somehow a very good conversation has started within the fashion industry that is being disrupted at the moment anyhow, but it has been really facilitated by the pandemic. That people have started thinking about what they actually need, and do they need to buy all of these things that they're buying and, you know, stocking in their closets. And so the brands kind of feel the need now to speed up this process of figuring out how they can produce more sustainable and be better to the environment, because fashion is arguably the third or the second biggest polluter to our planet. And so what we built with the Impact ID team is basically a consumer-facing algorithm, an API that calculates the impact of every item, of every single fashion item, and displays it on a product page. What it means is, for example, if you see this t-shirt, you will know how much carbon dioxide or water or waste it generates, if it's a circular product or not, and if it's a sustainably made product, you will see the savings that it generates. And we started with this solution really in the summer of 2020, so quite fresh. But what we see is some tremendous numbers. So we see like an average of e-commerce conversion rate increase of 130%, revenue up by 50% wherever there is the Impact ID. And you see that people start thinking about changing their behavior, and when you are able to translate the numbers, because the numbers are there, they've always been there. You know, for years people invest in sustainability reports, and many companies are trying to be better, but to the end consumer, that's never really understandable, right? If I read H&M's sustainability report, I will see what they've done on a company level, but when I enter the store and look at a t-shirt, those two don't, there is no link. Yeah. So, yeah.
And what is actually the customer reaction on this? I mean, how you are engaging them? I mean, are you working in partnership with some institutions, or you are doing this by yourself?
So for the technology part, we partner with the Hong Kong Polytechnic University, with a PhD team there for the data science of the tool. But we also, our customers are normally big marketplace platforms or direct-to-consumer brands. And so the way people see our work or our API, the end consumer, when they're browsing and they go to a product page with the product description, they will also see a couple of icons, and these icons will say the CO2 impact, the water impact, the waste impact, and etc.
Maybe if I can cut in here for a second, I just want to say that one of the trends moving forward is this digital personalization, sort of moving forward, and mobile readiness for all these types of platforms that you already mentioned. And this thing that you have already developed right now is a bit more information given in the hands of consumers, and basically the you know, climate conscious consumers can browse easier using your system, and to actually personalize the experience for that user by, you know, giving them more information.
Yeah, basically. I think it's not only the like climate conscious consumers, because I think sustainability is moving from being this very niche kind of sector of every industry to being something that is a status quo, because of several reasons, right? There's regulations. By 2025 in the European Union, there will be very strict regulations on garment collection of second-hand items and disposal, because China is not taking trash anymore, so we don't really have landfills to put it in. So regulations are coming all over the place, and it's not the motivation is
who wins the election.
Right well,
now, right?
I mean, I'm just saying that it's not a moral dilemma here. There is an actual business problem and an actual business need, and one is regulations, because businesses will need to figure out what to do with it. The other one is resources, because they're running out of resources, and by resources I mean also human resources, because even in areas where there's cheap labor, that cheap labor is no longer cheap anymore, and it's not that readily available as it used to be some time ago. So
actually, I forgot to tell something. Sorry for interrupting you, but it is absolutely clear what you mean, and congratulations for this, because we at MasterCard are also taking care, first of all, about the impact of our business, but also we are taking care about the environment. And even this year, this month, actually, we launched one great initiative, which is named Priceless Planet. Also, we are working in cooperation with similar startups who are measuring the carbon footprint of purchases which customer make, and even more, there is a possibility the customer to limit its carbon footprint, footprint for particular period of time. And if he tries to buy something on top, application says no, it's not allowed. You are going to.
Oh, that's great. And is there like an option where people can actually offset their carbon?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. So we have a lot of things to discuss. I'm afraid that the time is running. And I forgot to say in the beginning that we are open to respond to some questions from the public. And if there are such, I would delegate this pleasure to Evgeny because I don't have access.
Pleasure or responsibility, basically.
No, it's a pleasure to interact with the audience.
Of course it is. So basically, as soon as anybody has any questions, you can share them online, and we're going to be able to see them and, of course, respond to them here on the panel. While we're waiting for questions, I want to take the last words that Vanya just said about the partnerships with new companies. I want to congratulate her on the approach and everything that MasterCard are doing on all markets, because you're covering the globe basically. You're not just here in Bulgaria. And one of these new partnerships is actually the partnership between CloudCard and MasterCard in actually digitizing more businesses, which will help with the footprint, which you said, the climate footprint, etc. So we're really happy to start this new partnership, and we already have one with TBI. So we're actually really trying to move businesses towards digitalization and moving forward in getting into the next era, because as you know, people have been stuck in the past, not just decade but millennia, while doing their business offline. But as the COVID has proven, thus far, there's just the need to move forward with all of this. I don't have any questions thus far. Perhaps anybody else can cut in here?
Actually, we have enough time, so I just wanted to mention that you are absolutely right that MasterCard is a global company and is doing a lot of different projects in all the countries, but we never lose the local flavor, and actually we are much more focused.
I can confirm.
Thank you for this. Actually, we are not here to make compliments to each other, but these are the facts, and we are always seeking for the local impact. And here I would encourage the audience, if not now through this open channel, but later on, to contact us, any of us, if you have some ideas, some plans, some questions, some challenges, which MasterCard can be helpful to meet. Armen,
I just wanted to say it's not really directly connected to environmental impact, but approximately 39% of respondents of one very big study were saying that they are expecting the banks to act responsibly. And this is really important because the ethical banking is now more important than ever. We all know that when the lockdowns were declared, a lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people were sent to unpaid leaves. Of course, there are legislations which are protecting them from that, but still, I mean, a lot of governments were taking measures in order to contemplate this by some stimulating measures towards the consumers. And it is really, customers see that we should be the fair transmitters of those stimulus measures towards the public, because if the stimulus measures are taken on a big level and then they pass through the banks towards the public, and you know there are ways to transmit it in such a way that nothing gets to the bottom. I mean, this is not what customers expect from us. And on an example of TBI Bank, we have started restructuring the loan facilities of our impacted borrowers approximately 3 weeks before the National Bank of Bulgaria required us to do so, and we feel the appreciation because I mean, we shouldn't be like, you know, Mark Twain was saying about the insurance agents, that the good insurance agent is the one which will give you the umbrella when it is shiny, but will take it away as soon as it is raining. That was the habit of the banks in 1990s, even in the beginning of the 2000s, but now I think that the responsible banking is very important because first of all, it is leading to lower costs of risks. And on the other hand, it is the appreciation and the loyalty of the borrowers, which is important today, because as the earnings possibilities on the banking sector shrink, the competition becomes more fierce. And accordingly, to win in this competition, it's not only about the products and channels, but also about the responsibility. And I think this is very much, it can be extrapolated to any industry working there. This is what I wanted to say.
Here I would 100% agree with you, and I will share what my manager, the head of, the general manager of MasterCard for Central and Eastern Europe is saying. He is saying that nowadays we are winning our customers not with brains, but their hearts. And
we have to sell the experience, not the product.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's something that I can share right now, since we're sharing all these good ideas and everything. First of all, I want to congratulate TBI on doing this, you know, calling and not, you know, having people in person, these types of innovations in sort of the banking side of things, because these things are really helping merchants. Because I'm trying to protect merchant side, basically. And seeing this in banks like yours, it's a tremendous win for all the businesses, because the businesses are hit hard. I know that people are hit hard personally when it comes to their health and everything.
Small and
but
medium
sector,
yeah.
The economies are going down fast, as you put it yourself, in other more eloquent words, if you think about it. But basically, the whole idea of the whole thing is that, yes, banks should be helping. MasterCard is already helping, and they're helping merchants which, you know, need this in times like these. And we as CloudCard have also helped. For instance, we've done this campaign called Get Through the Hardships by Getting Online, which helped more than again 2,000 merchants go online during just March and April alone. So we've seen this tremendous shift, and we're all trying to help. So I congratulate you for all of this that you're doing on that regard.
Same from our side.
Do we have any questions?
No, unfortunately, I have nothing. No.
The audience is very shy, or maybe it's a lunchtime. I don't know.
perhaps that's the situation.
But if we don't have any other questions, let's just conclude that the technology actually, and technology and innovations, but innovation not always means some science or
stuff, yeah.
Exactly, or something very difficult, but good organization, good process optimization, together with the technology can definitely change the people's lives, the businesses' lives, not only the small businesses, but we have been seeing how actually very big businesses are suffering during that times. So, and for me, for us at MasterCard, the key word here is responsibility and partnership, because there is no one, who could do miracles alone, but in partnership everything is possible. So here I would like to thank you, and thank the audience, and thank the organizers as well for making this discussion happen. And keep safe and stay healthy.
Stay healthy.